Welcome back to the WizeUp Personal Finance Quiz, round 3. You're pretty familiar with all the rules by now, so before I get into it, just a very quick reminder for those that are joining for the first time. There's 10 questions in each round. I'm going to go through each question twice, and then there'll be a few seconds to make your mind up what the answer is before moving on to the next one. At the end of the 10 questions, I'm going to give you the answers and give you an explanation about why those answers are the right ones. Right, so we're going to start straight off, and question 1. This is on student finance. You can apply for your student loan A, from the February of the year you go to university, B, only up until you start university, C, for your entire course in one go, or D, on your own with nobody else's input. So only one of those is correct. Is it A, you can apply for your student loan from the February of the year you go to university, B, only up until you start university, C, you can apply for your entire course in one go, or D, you can apply on your own with no input from anybody else. Okay, moving on to question 2. Is the course fee at the start of your course the one that you will pay throughout? So does the course fee never change whilst you're at university? Is it A, true, or B, false? So the course fee that you start off by paying when you go to university, do you keep that same fee all the way through your 3 or 4 year term? Is it A, true, or B, false? At least there's only a 50-50 chance on that one. Question 3. You want to take an accelerated 2-year degree course, so not the normal 3 or 4, but an accelerated 2-year degree course. Can you A, expect that $9,250 is the maximum annual course fee? B, there is no maximum course fee, so shop around. C, you can't get financial support for a 2-year degree, so you're on your own whatever the course fee is. Or D, $11,100 is the maximum annual course fee as it stands today. So is it A, $9,250 is the maximum annual course fee, exactly the same as for the 3 or 4 year course. B, there's no maximum course fee, so shop around. C, you can't get financial support for a 2-year accelerated degree. Or D, $11,100 is the maximum annual course fee. Only one of those is correct. Question 4. Now, part of your whole process of your student finance application will depend on household income. So this question is all about the household income. So when you're looking at household income, is it A, all money coming into your household except child maintenance payments? B, just salaries that come into your household? C, benefits do not count towards household income? Or D, interest and dividend income do not count towards household income? So one of those is correct. Is it A, all money coming into your household except child maintenance payments counts? B, only salaries coming into the household count? C, benefits do not count towards household income but everything else does? Or D, interest and dividend income do not count towards household income but everything else does? So which of those do you think it is? Question 5. There is an end date to your student debt. Is it A, when you've paid everything back, that's principal plus interest? B, when you've paid it back or 25 years from the date of your graduation? C, when you have paid it back or 30 years from the date of your graduation? Or D, when you've paid it back, or 35 years from the date of your graduation. So which one of it is it? Is it A, only when you've paid everything back, B, when you paid everything back or 25 years after you graduate, C, when you paid it back or 30 years after you graduate, or D, when you paid it back or 35 years after you graduate? Question 6. The amount of interest you pay on your student debt is A, RPI, that's Retail Price Index, B, RPI plus somewhere between 0 and 3%, C, RPI plus 3%, or D, the Bank of England base rate plus 3%. So one of those is the correct interpretation of the interest rate you'll pay on your student debt. Is A, Retail Price Index, RPI, B, RPI plus somewhere between 0 and 3%, C, RPI plus 3%, or D, Bank of England base rate plus 3%. We're not just talking about whilst you're at uni, we're talking about the lifetime of your debt. Question 7. So before you move into your flat, you will have to pay a deposit. Does A apply, where the landlord has to keep it safe? B, where the landlord has to place it in an account protected by the tenancy deposit scheme? Or C, the landlord can use it but has to give it back to you when you leave? So is it A, the landlord has to keep it safe, doesn't spend it? B, the landlord has to place it in an account protected by the tenancy deposit scheme? Or C, the landlord can spend it but he has to give it back to you when you leave? Question 8. Another question about the landlord's rights. Can he A, only access your flat by appointment unless there's an emergency? B, make spot checks on his property uninvited? C, change the locks if you haven't paid your rent? Or D, let you redecorate without asking him? So which of those will he do? Can he A, only access your flat by appointment unless there's an emergency? B, make spot checks on his property uninvited? C, change the locks if you haven't paid your rent? Or D, let you redecorate at your whim without asking him? Which one of those do you think it is? Question 9. Now you move into a flat and there's a burglar alarm fitted. Should you A, always use it when you go out? B, use it when you remember? Or C, don't bother using it at all? So is it A, always use it when you're out? B, use it when you remember? Or C, don't bother using it at all? And finally, question 10, last one for this round. When you leave your flat, that's when you actually move out, should you A, take your stuff and leave quickly so that it can be used again? B, clean the flat? C, clean the flat and make sure everything is the same as it was on the inventory when you moved in? Or D, get professional cleaners in to make a really good job of it? So should you A, just take your stuff and move out quickly so that the landlord can use the flat again? B, clean the flat? C, clean the flat and make sure everything is the same as it was on the inventory when you moved in? Or D, get professional cleaners in? Right, I'll give you a few minutes just to finalise your answers on that, and then we'll be back with the answers on there. Right, so welcome back to the answers on round 3, which was all about student finance and flat and house sharing. Question 1 was, when you apply for your student loan, is it A, from the February of the year you go to university? B, only up until you start university? C, for your entire course in one go? Or D, on your own with nobody else's help? The answer is A, from the February of the year you go to university. So if you do miss that first early part, you can actually continue to apply way into the point where your course starts, and then any financial help that you get will be backdated. So don't panic too much if you make a last minute decision to go to uni and you think, oh crikey, I've missed the deadline to get my application in for student finance. Don't worry, you can do that way past the point where you actually start your course. Question 2. The course fee you start at the start of your course is the one that you'll pay throughout. The answer to that is false. The course fee could potentially change every year. So don't think just because you start off at 8,750 or whatever it might be, then it's not going to go up. There is a possibility that it will stay the same, but there's an equal chance that it will increase as well. Question 3. You want to take an accelerated 2-year degree. Is 9,250 the maximum annual course fee, exactly the same as it would be on a 3 or 4 year course? There's no maximum fee, so shop around. You can't get financial support for a 2-year degree, or is 11,100 the maximum annual course fee? The answer to that is D. £11,100 is the current maximum course fee. Now that potentially could change every year going forward, but for the last 2 years that's been left at £11,100, so hopefully that will stay at that level, but it will not be the 9,250 that you would expect to pay as a maximum if you were on a 3 or a 4 year course. Question 4. When looking at household income, is it A, all money coming into your household except child maintenance payments? B, just salaries coming into the household? C, benefits don't count towards household income? Or D, interest and dividend income do not count towards household income? The answer there is A, all money coming into your household except child maintenance payments. So everything else that comes in counts towards household income. And don't forget that it's going to be a gross figure, so it's before any tax. So it's really important to realise that point as well. Question 5. There is an end date to your student debt. Is it only when you've paid everything back, when you've paid it back, or 25 years after you graduate, when you paid it back, or 30 years after you graduate, or when you pay it back, or 35 years after you graduate? The answer to that is C. It's when you've paid it back, or 30 years from when you graduate. So for most of you at the ripe old age of 51, you're going to be student debt free. Yes, you'll have lots of other debts, I've no doubt about that, but at least you won't have to worry about student finance anymore. Question 6. The amount of interest you pay on your student debt is A, RPI, B, RPI and somewhere between 0 and 3%, C, RPI plus 3%, or D, the Bank of England base rate plus 3%. A little bit of a trick question on this one. I expect quite a lot of you went for C, but the actual answer is B, RPI plus somewhere between 0 and 3%. Now whilst you're at uni, it will be RPI plus 3% for everybody. But once you leave uni, then you will be paying RPI plus somewhere between 0 and 3%, depending on A, if you're at work, and B, what your salary is while you're in work. And again, that's gross salaries. Question 7. Before you move into a flat, you'll have to pay a deposit. Does A, the landlord just have to keep it safe? B, the landlord has to place it in an account protected by the tenancy deposit scheme? C, the landlord can use it but has to give it back to you when you leave? The answer to that one is B, the landlord has to, by law, place it into an account protected by the tenancy deposit scheme. That's a government-backed scheme, so your money's absolutely safe. He's not allowed to spend it under any circumstances, but he doesn't actually have to give it all back to you at the end. He can make some deductions if you've left the place in a bit of a mess or you've made some breakages and not replaced it all the way through. Then he can make some deductions out of that deposit before returning the rest of it to you. Question 8. The landlord can A, only access your flat by appointment unless there's an emergency. B, make spot checks on his property uninvited. C, change the locks if you haven't paid your rent. Or D, let you redecorate without asking him. The answer to that is A. He can only access your flat by appointment with you, so it has to work for you as well, unless there's an emergency. So the emergency might be that he can smell gas, or there's a water leak coming through the ceiling, the flat underneath, something like that. then yes, he can let himself in and just make sure that everyone and everything is okay. But other than that, he has to ring you, find out when you're going to be in, when's convenient for you, before he comes round to have a look around. Question 9. There's a burglar alarm in your flat. Should you A, always use it when you're out, B, use it when you remember, or C, don't bother using it at all? The answer to this one, I think, is fairly obvious. It's A. Although it's an obvious answer, we should really look at what happens if you don't use that burglar alarm and unfortunately the flat gets broken into. Then unfortunately for you, the landlord can actually come after you for some of those damages because he's left you the tools to protect his flat. You've chosen not to use those tools, so you may well be liable for some of those damages that he may otherwise claim on his insurance company. And last question for this round, question 10. When you leave your flat, you should A, take your stuff and leave quickly, making sure that the landlord can let the flat out again as quick as possible. B, clean the flat before disappearing. C, clean the flat and make sure everything is the same as it was on the inventory when you moved in. Or D, get professional cleaners in. Now the answer to that one is going to be C. Although you may choose professional cleaners, that's completely up to you. Clean the flat and make sure that everything is the same as it was on the inventory. Then the landlord won't be making any stoppages against your deposit and you will get all of your deposit back. And if not, he will have to explain exactly why you're not getting all of your deposit back. So go down to Poundland, spend no more than 20 quid on getting cleaning materials. If there's 4 or 5 of you, come back 2 hours work, the place is going to look like a new pin. There's going to be no room for complaint. Just check your inventory list that you made when you moved in. Make sure that there's the same amount of coffee cups, things like that. Make sure everything's in the right condition, and then you're going to be absolutely clear when it comes to moving out. So hopefully you did okay. Please tweet how you did, let us know. Mention us at WizeUpMe, that's WizeUp with a Z, and we'll see you again in round 4. See you later.